My wife put me up for auction at the New Year party, Cabo, so I deleted her billion-dollar empire. My wife was on a stage in a gold dress, drunk enough to think cruelty counted as crowd work, yelling, "Who wants one night with my husband?" Starting bid, $50. He snores, he sweats, and if you reboot him twice, he might tell a boring story about router cables. The room cracked up. That's when I walked in. 40 minutes late, shirt wrinkled, knuckles greasy from changing a tire, looking like a man who had just lost a fight with a highway shoulder. She saw me and smiled bigger. Big mistake, because the people laughing thought they were watching a cheap husband get auctioned off. They weren't. They were watching the idiot who built their money machine decide whether to unplug it. To get why I smiled instead of snapping, buckle up. We need to go back. The lie he lived. On paper, I was the boring husband. Quiet, reliable, good with spreadsheets, routers, passwords, and all the invisible junk rich people think happens by magic. In my wife's family company, I had some fake title with the word operations in it, which really meant call him when the site breaks and pretend he's not in the room when it works. I wasn't flashy. I didn't golf. And I never learned how to laugh at bad jokes from men in loafers with no socks. So the family filed me under useful and forgettable. That part didn't happen all at once. When I met Laura, she liked that I was sharp. Back then, in the late 1990s, she'd lean in when I talked. She'd ask real questions. She'd tell people I was the smartest man she knew, which should have been my first warning, because later, she'd say it like an insult. At first, my brain made her feel special. Later, my silence made her feel powerful. That shift was slow, messy, and by the time I really saw it, I was already married into a family that treated affection like a coupon, only valid under certain conditions. Her father had one of those old-school retail businesses that looked classy from the outside and ran on panic inside. In the early 2000s, when everybody started rushing online because physical stores were getting cooked, he wanted a digital platform fast, not a pretty little website, a full system inventory, payments, vendor routing, fraud checks, warehouse sync, customer accounts, the whole ugly machine behind the curtain. I built it. Nights, weekends, cheap coffee, 2 monitors, 1 bad chair. I wrote the base code, built the server map, designed the failover paths, even named half the internal tools, because nobody else could be bothered. He promised me equity once the company settled. That word did a lot of work in that house. Once the platform took off, the family business exploded. Money started falling from the ceiling. New offices, new cars, fancy charity dinners where rich people clap for each other while eating tiny food on giant plates. And suddenly, I wasn't the builder anymore. I was our tech guy. Then support. Then my brother-in-law started calling me the printer whisperer, which everybody loved, because apparently, if a joke is repeated in a ballroom, it becomes a personality. I'd sit there while they praised Laura's business instincts and her father's vision, knowing their empire still ran on code I wrote at 3 in the morning, in sweatpants that said state champs on the leg. I let it slide because I loved my wife. Or maybe I loved the version of her that existed before money polished all her worst parts. Also, if I'm honest, I thought patience was noble. I thought keeping the peace meant I was being mature. That's a cute story people tell themselves right before becoming furniture. At home, the jokes got meaner because mean people get lazy. She forgot my birthday 1 year, then laughed and said, "You're hard to shop for. Your whole vibe is outlet mall khaki." At a company dinner, she told a table full of investors I was her sleep mode husband because I only lit up when somebody needed the Wi-Fi fixed. One Christmas, she sat me at the kids' table with 2 interns and her cousin's weird son, who kept eating butter by itself. And when I asked why, she shrugged and said I paired well with beige. Everybody laughed. I laughed too, sometimes, which is the part that still bothers me. Not because it was funny, because joining in felt cheaper than admitting I was getting peeled alive a little at a time. So that became my life. Keep systems running, nod through insults, pay bills, show up, stay useful. The whole marriage turned into one long help desk ticket with shared groceries. And I kept swallowing it because I thought peace cost less. Turns out peace had monthly fees, hidden charges, and interest. Cracks in the mask. By then, there were no kids, no warmth, no real marriage left to protect. Just a house with expensive counters, 2 toothbrushes, and the kind of silence that somehow still judges you. We moved around each other like coworkers on bad terms. Shared walls, shared calendar alerts, shared resentment with premium finishes. If you looked at us in public, we seemed polished. If you looked closer, we were one catered event away from becoming a lawsuit. The thing that finally scraped the sleep out of my eyes wasn't even dramatic. It was small, which almost made it worse. I came home early one Thursday because a vendor meeting got canceled, and I heard Laura in the kitchen with 2 friends, drinking white wine and talking like rich people do when they think service staff and husbands are both part of the decor. One friend asked where I was, and Laura snorted into her glass and said, "Probably rebooting something. He's basically an Alexa with lower energy and worse outfits. Useful if you need bills paid or a router fixed. Not really a full human after 6. They laughed so hard, one of them slapped the counter. I just stood there in the hall with my laptop bag digging into my hand and listened to my wife describe me like an appliance she regretted financing. That was the moment. Something cold settled in. Not rage. Rage is hot and loud and kind of hopeful. This felt cleaner than that. More like a door locking. I backed out before they saw me, got back in my car, and drove around for an hour with no music on, because even the radio felt too cheerful for that kind of stupidity. Then I called my friend Nate. He took one look at me later that night, slid a beer across the table, and said, "Man, this isn't marriage. This is customer service with emotional damage." I laughed, because if somebody tells you your whole life in one sentence, you either laugh or throw the glass. He didn't laugh back. "You know what your problem is?" he asked. "Besides the obvious, you keep acting like if you stay calm long enough, she'll turn back into a decent person." That one landed hard. I went home and didn't confront Laura because honestly, I was past wanting an apology. Sorry from the wrong person is just noise with lipstick on it. Instead, I opened my old laptop, not the work one, the old one. The ugly brick that still had stickers peeling off the lid and enough archive junk on it to embarrass a spy agency. I started digging through old contracts, backup folders, repository logs, purchase orders, ownership records, expired admin notes, every dusty corner of that company's digital skeleton. At first, I told myself I was just checking my options, just seeing what was there. Totally normal hobby, right? Going through 15 years of licensing history while your wife shops for party shoes. But once I started pulling threads, the whole sweater came apart. The original platform license had never fully transferred. They'd moved money around it, renamed entities, buried paperwork under shell companies with fake clean names. But the root ownership trail still pointed back to my first consulting structure. My credentials, the ones I set up in the beginning for emergency recovery, were still alive too. Dormant, buried, but alive. The metadata on old code commits still stamped my name all over the core architecture. Server maps, admin signatures, audit trails. Even the failover environment still carried naming tags I'd made when I was half asleep and annoyed. I remember staring at the screen and laughing out loud in an empty office. Not a happy laugh. The kind of laugh you make when you find out the castle was built on your basement and nobody changed the locks. So while Laura obsessed over nail appointments, seating charts, and whether her gold dress said festive or tax fraud, I got busy. I exported records, printed recovery keys, saved chain of custody copies, sent encrypted packets to myself 3 different ways because I knew one day somebody would pretend none of this existed. I moved slow, careful, boring, the exact way they all thought I lived. I still wasn't planning to burn anything down. That part matters. What I wanted was leverage, proof, a way out where I wouldn't get flattened by her family's lawyers the second I asked for air. I wanted one clean hand on the doorknob, nothing more. Then New Year's Eve showed up. Laura grabbed a microphone and decided the safest man in the room was the one she could humiliate for sport. The auction. By the time I got to the hotel ballroom, the place looked like New Year's Eve had robbed a chandelier store. Gold light spilled across white tablecloths. Champagne glasses clicked. A sax remix of some old pop song floated over the room. And everybody smelled like perfume, money, and bad decisions. I came in through the side, still greasy from the tire, with cold air on my neck and road dust on my shoes, already knowing I looked like the before picture in a divorce ad. Laura was center stage, of course. She had one heel kicked out, one hand around a mic, and the grin of a woman who'd confused attention with charm for so long she couldn't tell the difference anymore. The second she spotted me, she lit up like I'd walked in, carrying the punchline she'd been waiting for. "There he is," she yelled. "The man of the hour. Ladies, bidding is still open. Clearance rack husband, lightly used, average mileage, no sense of style." The room burst out laughing. Then she kept going, because stopping would have required a conscience. She started listing my flaws like she was reading specs off a dented appliance. Bald spot, check. Snores like a lawnmower, check. Boring stories about cables and payment gateways, huge check. "And if you take him tonight," she said, slurring just enough to make it ugly, "I'll even throw in free shipping." Some guy near the bar yelled, "Does he come with tech support?" Another one shouted, "Only if there's a refund policy." Some woman lifted her glass and asked if I was house-trained. That got a bigger laugh than it deserved, which really tells you a lot about the room. Phones came out, heads turned. A few people had that face people get when they know something's gone too far, but they still want to see where it lands. One idiot in a velvet jacket offered store credit. Somebody else yelled $30 and a brunch coupon. Laura slapped her thigh and acted like she was hosting the funniest live special of the century. I didn't go up there. That threw her off right away. Instead, I crossed the room slow, pulled out a chair at a front table, and sat down. No glare, no speech, no big wounded husband moment for her to dance around. I just took my seat and looked at her. Calm, flat, done. That kind of stillness scares people when they were hoping for flailing. I saw it hit her. Her smile twitched. Tiny thing. Barely there, but it was there. She tried to recover by turning meaner. "Don't be shy," she called. "Come up here so the ladies can inspect the merchandise. He looks worse close up, but honesty matters." A few laughs sputtered out. Not as many this time. I could feel the room changing. The sound had shifted. Same people, same glasses, same fake snow by the DJ booth. But now, there was a little drag in the air, like everybody could hear the joke dying and didn't know what to do with their hands. Then Laura, because she has the survival instincts of a raccoon in a casino, doubled down. She waved at a group of women near the stage. "Seriously, come look. He's like one of those free trial subscriptions you forget to cancel. Just standing there, quietly costing you money." That one hit the room with a weird mix of laughter and secondhand shame. A woman near the back actually put her drink down. Even her cousin stopped grinning. Nate, who'd been near the bar the whole time, started moving toward me with that look that says either we leave now or I commit a felony in dress shoes. I gave him a small shake of my head. Not yet. Under the table, I slipped my phone out and opened a dead-looking utility app I hadn't touched in years. One old emergency route path. One legacy access lane they never bothered to kill. Because rich people think systems are forever if the quarterly report looks nice. My thumb moved. Two-factor key. Recovery phrase. Silent login. And there it was. The command sat on my screen, plain as day. Freeze payment processing. Revoke active tokens. Lock external sync. Not flashy, just fatal, in the most boring possible font. I stared at it while Laura laughed about my haircut. You'd think I'd be shaking. I wasn't. My pulse felt weirdly steady, like some part of me had already crossed the line and was just waiting for my hand to catch up. Nate leaned in and muttered, "Please tell me that's not what I think it is." "Depends," I told him. "How funny do you want midnight to be?" He blinked once, then almost smiled. Up on stage, Laura lifted her glass and shouted, "All right, one more round before midnight. Since my husband finally showed up, let's let him speak. Maybe hearing his voice will lower the bids." She held the mic out toward me, and just like that, she stopped hosting the joke and handed me the switch. The empire was mine. I stood up, took the mic, and looked at the room. "If we're doing bids," I said, "people should probably know what they're buying. Because this boring husband you're all pricing like a used toaster built the system paying for this party." That got a laugh, so I kept going. The payment rails for Delmont Retail, the warehouse routing, vendor sync, fraud filters, customer account engine. All of it started with me. Some of you are wearing bonuses, I coded. The laughter thinned out. Derek from finance lowered his drink. My father-in-law didn't move at all. Laura gave me that tight smile she used when she wanted to kill a problem by acting embarrassed for it. Oh my God, Daniel, don't do this. It's New Year's. Perfect, I said. Nothing says fresh start like receipts. I pulled folded pages from my jacket and read off launch dates, server cluster names, rollback environments, and internal tool tags only the builder would know. A guy near the back muttered, "How would he know that?" Because I named one folder do_not_touch_seriously. I said, and your family ignored it for 12 years. That one hit. Laura tried to wave it off. He helped. That's all. He was support. Support? I nodded. Sure. Then it's a miracle support still owns the root credentials, the original license chain, and half the metadata under your backend. Now, you could hear the air vents. I handed one page to Derek and one to Legal. Derek checked his phone. Legal read 2 lines and went pale. I held up my own screen, just enough for the front tables to see the admin panel. I've actually been very nice, I said. I didn't wipe data. I didn't blow up servers. I paused payment processing, revoked active tokens tied to unauthorized control, and locked external sync. Basically, I locked my own front door. Laura laughed too fast. He's bluffing. There it was. The room grabbed onto that because they wanted it to be true. She stepped closer and smiled at the crowd again. See, this is what he does. He gets moody, says nerd stuff, and waits for people to clap because a spreadsheet looked at him wrong. A few people laughed, but not comfortably. I looked at the ballroom clock over the bar, 11:58. Then I looked back at her. Didn't talk, didn't smile. Just stood there with my phone in my hand. That silence got weird fast. No band, no countdown yet. No one knew if they were still at a party or already inside a lawsuit. Laura kept grinning, but now it looked stapled on. Oh, come on, she said louder this time. If you really had some giant kill switch, you'd have pressed it already. I tipped my head a little. I did. That landed. And then nothing happened. For one long second, she thought she won. She gave this tiny laugh and turned back to the room like she was about to recover the whole night. There, you see? He just wanted a 10. A phone chimed. Sharp, tiny, ugly. Then another. Then 3 at once. Derek stared at his screen. Auth Error? A woman near the side pulled out her phone. I just got one too. Another executive checked his tablet, frowned, then stood up so fast his chair skidded. External sync is down. I looked at the clock again. 11:59. That's when the room broke. More phones lit up. Payment alerts. Access failures. Vendor pings. One operations manager actually whispered, "No way." Like maybe, if he said it soft enough, the servers would grow a conscience. Across the room, somebody from support rushed into the hall at a jog. Another exec started refreshing her tablet over and over, like bad news might blink first. Laura stopped smiling. "You shut it down?" she asked. I looked at her for a second. "No, I shut me out of your version of it." Big difference. Public collapse. My father-in-law shoved back from his table and came at me fast, red in the face, tux half open. "Enough. You are not hijacking my party with some sad little IT tantrum." He still needed me small, even now. He jabbed a finger at my chest. "You were staff, support, whatever files you touched belong to this company." Almost, I told him. That would be true if you'd finished the transfer paperwork instead of hiding licensing under shell entities and hoping nobody read the attachments. Legal snapped her head toward him. I pulled out one more page and read the clause. Original architecture rights stayed tied to my consulting entity, unless reassigned by signed supplemental transfer. No signed supplemental transfer existed. Legal grabbed the paper, scanned it, and went ghost pale. He tried bluff next. "We can replace every part of that system by morning." Derek answered before I could. "No, we can't." That got everybody's attention. He swallowed. "Payment processor handshake is failing. Warehouse routing isn't syncing. Customer wallets are throwing auth errors. And the investor portal just locked regional access." Now the whole room sounded like angry bees. Phones buzzing. People whispering. Chairs scraping. I didn't need to add anything. Their own system was talking for me. For the record, I said into the mic, I didn't torch random data like some movie villain. I revoked unlawful access, locked mirrored environments, and triggered escrow notice to the board. Less revenge, more housekeeping. Lara stepped close enough that I could smell champagne and panic. Why would you do this to me? Because you already did it to me, I said. You just stretched it out over years. Her shoulders dropped. Then her brother shouted for security, because men like him think every problem is a door problem. 2 guards started toward me, but outside counsel cut them off. So did compliance, still staring at her tablet. No one touches him, she said. His packet already went to board members, outside auditors, and investors 15 minutes ago. That changed everything. My father-in-law turned on her. What packet? She didn't blink. Chain of ownership records, system logs, credential history, escrow notice, licensing conflict, and probable exposure on unauthorized control. He looked back at me, fight leaking out by the second. What do you want? I smiled, tired more than anything. Funny you ask. For years, you all called me tech support. Tonight, I finally fixed the main bug. Nobody moved, so I said it. Your family. Then midnight hit. No countdown, no kiss, no cheer. Just fireworks outside the ballroom glass while inside, screens flashed, alerts kept chiming, and a room full of expensive people learned what consequences sound like. The walkout and the new price. I set the mic down on the auction table, right next to a half-empty champagne flute and somebody's folded bitter paddle. Then slipped off my wedding ring and left that there too. It made a tiny click on the wood. Funny how 20 years can end with a sound that small. Lara saw it and flinched like I'd thrown something. But I hadn't. I was just finally putting down what she'd spent years making heavier. You couldn't sell what you never knew how to value, I told her. Nobody tried to stop me this time. They just parted. Executives, cousins, friends, random rich strangers who had laughed 10 minutes ago. All moving out of my way like the room had finally decided which side of the story it was on. My shoes stuck a little on spilled champagne as I walked, and somewhere behind me, Lara called my name. Not loud now, not for the crowd. Just once. Small. Human. Too late. I was 3 steps from the ballroom doors when the board chair caught up with me. Outside counsel gliding beside her like bad news in heels. No panic on her face. No mess. Just old money, hard posture, and the kind of calm that usually means somebody else is about to bleed. Daniel, wait, she said. Please. That word almost made me laugh, because I'd known that family long enough to know please was a language they kept for judges and private bankers. She stepped closer, voice low and clean. We need emergency terms. Tonight. If this rolls into market open without containment, the damage compounds. I nodded. Then take notes. Outside counsel already had her phone out. First, public credit for the build and core architecture. No cute corporate fog. Second, an outside forensic audit on licensing, access abuse, and compensation. Third, my equity payout based on original ownership and current value. Fourth, divorce papers fast-tracked. No cute little family games. Fifth, nobody in that bloodline contacts me again unless a lawyer starts the sentence. Counsel looked up. That's your demand package? No, I said. That's me keeping it festive. The board chair gave one small nod, like I'd finally started speaking at her preferred tax bracket. If we agree, do we get limited operations back? Limited, I said. Escrow stays. Audit stays. Root access stays with me until ink dries. Done, she said. That was it. No speeches. No fake remorse. Just a woman in pearls, agreeing fast. Because numbers had finally explained my value in a language her room respected. Outside the ballroom, Nate was waiting by the coat stand with my jacket over one arm, and a face like Christmas came early for petty men everywhere. He handed it over and glanced back through the doors. So, he said, turns out you were worth slightly more than the open bar shrimp. I laughed. A real one this time. It came out rough, rusty, and weirdly light. We walked toward the lobby while fireworks cracked outside the hotel windows, bright reds and golds bouncing off the glass. Behind us, the party kept dying under fluorescent backup lights And for the first time in years, I wasn't surviving the night. I was leaving it. By morning, Laura's family still had diamonds, lawyers, and a ballroom full of excuses. But the login screen only wanted one name, mine. So tell me, when would you have snapped? When she opened bidding? When the room laughed? Or when the payment system started choking? And if you want more stories where quiet people stop acting like furniture and start acting like owners, hit subscribe right now. You'd think that was the end of it, right? Big room, dead company, ring on the table, cue the credits. Trust me, I thought so too. But rich families never let a disaster travel alone. It brings cousins, lawyers, fake concern, and one aunt who suddenly wants to hug you like she didn't laugh 10 minutes earlier. The second Nate and I hit the lobby, my phone started vibrating like it wanted workers' comp. Unknown numbers, executives, 2 board members, 1 message from Derek that just said, "Call me now." Very bold tone for a man whose whole payment rail was currently face down in a puddle. I muted everything and kept walking, because once you've spent years being everybody's emergency contact, silence feels better than revenge food. Outside, the air was sharp and cold enough to wake the dead, and the hotel valet line looked like a luxury car commercial sponsored by Panic. Drivers stood around in black coats, checking phones, hearing bits of the mess through earpieces, trying hard to look like they weren't listening while absolutely listening. That's the thing about public humiliation. It spreads faster when expensive people are nearby. Give them one scandal, and suddenly everybody becomes a part-time historian. Nate leaned against a pillar and watched me with that half grin he gets when he knows I've finally done the thing he's been begging me to do for years. So, he asked, "You good?" "No," I told him, but in a new way. He nodded like that made perfect sense, because honestly it did. I wasn't happy. I was drained, wired, sad, relieved, and a little hungry, which felt rude considering I just kneecapped an empire. Still, bodies are dumb. You can be ending a marriage and your stomach still goes. Cool, but are we getting fries or what? A woman in sequins pushed through the hotel doors behind us, looked around, spotted me, and changed direction fast. It was Laura's cousin Melissa, the one who always talked to me like I was an app update nobody asked for. She came over with wet eyes and careful hands, all softness now that the room had flipped. "Daniel," she started, "I just want you to know I never thought she'd go that far." I looked at her for a second. You laughed. That stopped her cold. Not because I yelled it. I didn't. I just handed her the fact plain and simple. And for once there was nowhere for her to place it except inside herself. She opened her mouth, shut it, gave one tiny nod, and stepped back. That felt better than a speech. Then the main hotel doors slid open again, and out came my father-in-law's brother, Warren, who'd spent 20 years treating me like a folding chair with a driver's license. He still had his bow tie on crooked, and that smug old country club face. But now, it was leaking sweat. "You're enjoying this," he said. "No," I answered. "I'm understanding it." He frowned. "You could have handled this privately." That one almost made me laugh hard enough to choke. Private is where your family put all the damage. Public is where it finally got receipts. He didn't like that. Too bad. He muttered something about betrayal, family, loyalty. The usual words people drag out when consequences show up wearing your name tag. I let him talk, because men like Warren hear themselves the way other people hear music. Once he ran out of gas, I just asked one question. "Would you have listened if I'd done this quietly?" He looked away. Exactly. A firework cracked over the hotel roof, bright enough to wash the parking lot in red for a second. And all of us stood there in that glow, looking like suspects in a very festive crime. Nate snorted. Melissa retreated. Warren adjusted his cuffs like maybe fabric could save him. My phone buzzed again in my pocket. This time I checked it. One message. "Laura." Not an apology, not an excuse, just 4 words. Was any of it real? I stared at the screen, thumb still, breath fogging in the cold. And for the first time all night, that question actually hurt.